People keep asking me, when is Jen coming on? When are you going to talk to Jen? Why haven't you talked to Jen yet? Like, it's finally happening, guys.
Because mom stuff. That's why. Who can relate? Definitely you.
Us. No, I'm so glad we're doing this. We became fast friends, and it's been great getting to know you, but I don't know everything about your news story. So I want to step it back.
Yeah, let's do it.
I know that you grew up in Ohio.
I did.
What was your childhood like?
So I grew up in a really small town, Dover, Ohio. You only know about Dover, Ohio if you're from Ohio. It's very close to the largest Amish community outside of Pennsylvania. So super rural. My very humble upbringing. My mom worked 3 jobs to get me through college. And she was a waitress. She worked at a nursing home. And then my dad worked construction, most of my childhood. So, very humble, working class family. And then I got into a really good journalism school, Ohio University. Their E.W. Scripps School of Journalism. That's one of the top 10 in the country. I was actually shocked that I got in. Because I had applied to a bunch of different schools and got turned down from a bunch of different schools. So was super happy to get in. And I didn't really know that I would fall so hard in love with broadcast journalism until I really got a hands-on experience in college.
Yeah. Stepping back, is it true that you were shy growing up?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, painfully shy.
And I was too. So that's why I want to hear about it.
So why are we doing this? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. What's your therapist said?
Exactly. It is. It's polar opposite. I think maybe because it's a challenge for us, right?
Yeah.
It definitely does not come easy, and there's something invigorating and energizing about that.
True. And also, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up and I was very shy, I was very aware that I was very shy. Mm-hmm. So I felt this need to not be shy because I was.
Right. And to compensate for that.
And also, I'm an only child. You're an only child, right? And I think,
first of all, didn't know you were an only child.
I should caveat, I have 2 half sisters that are 15 to 20 years older than me, but I never grew up with them. I love them. They are great. But I never saw them growing up. They were never part of my childhood, Christmases, or I saw them maybe once every 3 to 5 years, It was very different.
Practicality.
Yes, in practicality. Yes. Some people have half siblings that live with them, and that's very different. But for me, I grew up as an only child. Mm-hmm. So, and I feel like I almost had to, how do I say this? I had to be more independent. And I had to figure out how to be more outgoing because I didn't have a sibling to lean on. I didn't have somebody there to say, "Ooh, I'm shy. Well, I'll just go hang out with my sibling." No,
if I didn't go out there and make friends.
Yes,
you have to go out there and do it yourself because no one's going to do it for you.
No one's holding your hand.
You're not going to get introduced to anybody through a sibling or anything like that.
No,
so you have to carve your own path.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's why I think so many only children are in this business.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to connect with essentially strangers. And that's something that I would say I have gotten really good at as my career has gone on, is just becoming more confident in that space and confident in who I am.
Yeah, because I would not take you as somebody that grew up as shy.
Yeah.
Knowing you now. No.
No, but if you ask my old high school classmates, they would say, she does what for a living? She's on TV for a living? Yeah, they would have thought that I would be I don't know, an accountant or somebody who stays behind a computer all day and minds their own business.
Really? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I wouldn't take that. It's when I was in high school, I got nominated most likely to succeed.
Oh!
I did not win, but I did get nominated. And no, I did not tell anybody to nominate me. So I was well, people see something in me.
See, absolutely. They saw that drive. Even if you don't see it in yourself from a young age like that, they see it in you.
Yeah. At preschool graduation, I got most likely to be a movie star too.
Ooh. Yeah. So from a very early age.
Even though I was shy. Yeah. I love to perform though. So isn't that weird?
Right. That's right. Yeah,
so
me
weird.
too. I remember at weddings, I guess my mom would tell me this story because I'm like, where does Ethan get it? Why is he so outgoing? And she said, you don't understand, Jen. You were that girl who was out there on the dance floor, first on the floor, getting everybody over to start dancing. So I guess I've always had it in me. It just got buried for a little while until it came out again. I did some stuff in high school. We produced like a regional newscast. And I was executive producer on that. And I liked storytelling. I've always loved storytelling.
Yeah.
Like I thought from like a very young age, maybe even as early as 8 years old, that I wanted to do something like this for a living. I knew that I wanted to tell stories and write because that was always a strong suit. But I never really knew what direction I wanted to take that in until I got that experience in college. And we produced a regional news show and my parents actually got to see me on the news for the first time in college. Ugh, I never want to see those tapes like
Same.
ever again.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful. So, I did that. I worked my way up from weekend morning radio. That was always fun. And I remember walking on Sorority Road, because that's where WOUB was, the radio TV station, picking up money that the frat boys and sorority girls had dropped from the night before and like thinking of it as like, this is my allowance. This is my payment.
Gosh.
Doing that for like a year and then working my way up into finally being a news anchor by the time I was a senior and working for WOUB. And that was, thankfully what got me my resume tape. And I sent it out to, oh my gosh, I had to have sent that tape out to like 40 something different stations across the country. I got 2 replies. One of them was in Jackson, Tennessee for WBBJ, the only game in town. We were the only TV station. And I was to be now we call them multimedia journalists, but back then it was a one-man band. So,
right.
Yep. Carrying my own camera, running my own camera, editing my own stuff. And so I very distinctly remember like walking around in heels carrying this big, heavy camera and tripping and just face planting at a fire station because you're just like doing it all, right? And it was back then it was tape to tape editing, which if you're not in this business, you don't know what that is, but just very old school way of doing things.
Yeah.
Like non-linear editing. So I did that for a year before I was like, I got to get out of here. I remember doing live shots in cornfields, literally, and got a job at the Fox station in Hartford, Connecticut. Worked there for like 7 years. Worked my way up. I actually had my own camera crew. What a luxury. And by the time I left, I was anchoring the weekends there. And, again, like you build up your resume and you have a better reel, which I then sent a tape out to more stations and the ratio became better.
Right.
I got more responses. I sent out less tapes, got more responses. Got a TV agent, as we do. I got a divorce. I got married and got a divorce in Connecticut and moved back with my parents for a few months to resettle and recalibrate and figure out.
Talk about the decision to do that.
That was a big one. So the marriage ended pretty abruptly, and I remember throwing my clothes in trash bags, literally, in the back of my car and driving my car to Ohio. I didn't really have a game plan. I just knew that I wanted to pick up the pieces and move on pretty quickly. Because I looked at it as kind of a setback. There's nothing more of a kick in the gut than moving back in with your family after so many years of being on your own and starting a life with somebody and thinking that your life is going a certain direction, but getting completely derailed. And so I spent some time there. It wasn't easy, but I got a new agent, and I decided that the only place I would ever consider moving would be New York and taking a big, big leap. And I knew this was going to be a tough move. I was going to fight like hell to get there. I knew the general manager at the Pix 11 station. I applied there and I went in for a job interview. I got hired as freelance reporter and never even spent one day working at that station because I then got hired at the Fox affiliate.
What?
At Fox 5. Yeah.
Wait, so how did that happen?
Just with my new agent, he had a meeting at a journalism convention, I forget which one it was, with the assistant news director and the news director at Fox 5, and said, listen, I have a client. She is an extremely hard worker. She really wants this desperately. She's moving on with her life. She had a personal, and he even got into it too. She had a personal crisis that she's been going through, but is very eager to move on and to work hard and start a new chapter in her life. And there was something about that conversation and that pitch that really stuck with the assistant news director. And because he said, I heard that and I love a comeback story. So he brought me in for an interview, and I was very candid with him. I said, listen, I had been going through a divorce. I want to get back into news full throttle. I will work nights and weekends and whatever you need me to do. All I'm asking for is an opportunity. And they gave me one, and they started me off freelance. It was like a permalance position. And then I worked my way up to full-time reporter. I did the night show. I did the morning show. They liked me on mornings, and they hired me to co-host Good Day Wake Up.
When did you decide it was time to get an agent? Because I know that is a question that a lot of aspiring journalists have. Should I get one? Do I need one? At what point should I get one?
I got one. I had one in Hartford, and I did it because I knew that I was the youngest hire at the station. I knew there would be a bunch more hires after me, but I wanted somebody who would be able to advocate for me, knowing that I wasn't really equipped to do that. I was in a mid-market at that time and just thought it was the right time. And especially that agent didn't really pan out, and I wound up going with Ken Lindner, who is amazing. He has been doing this for years. I had a friend in New York who referred me to him, and I signed on. And yeah, I think if you're in between mid-market and upper market, I would definitely, that's the time to get an agent, because not everyone's equipped to be able to advocate for themselves, and this business can be pretty cutthroat.
That's true. You know, I had one in the mid-market, and I didn't feel like it was the right. It was fine. My agent was fine, but I honestly got the jobs on my own, doing my own work. But I feel like the more that you climb, the more that becomes important, especially when you're heading to somewhere like New York or the network.
That's right. That's right. And the salary too. I mean, the money thankfully gets a little better, but the contracts get a little trickier, right?
Yeah.
Do you do 2 years? Do you do 3 years? And if you do these contracts, there's like a lot of layers there in between. Especially, it's gotten a lot more complicated now with the advent of social media. I know a lot of people work it in their contract where they can do stuff on social media and perhaps make money on social media and do these side projects. That's something else too. There's a lot of exclusivity contracts when it comes to local TV stations that can be pretty hard to navigate, and who can use your image, and you know, can you do any other projects? Because this business has gotten so diversified where you need to kind of be able to do it all. And you need to be able, and you're doing it too, you need to be able to market yourself in ways that aren't just through broadcast news, because that's kind of a dying business, especially on the local level.
So you were in New York, and where did you go from New York?
This is also an interesting path. I was perfectly happy doing what I was doing. Love my co-host. Life was good. And then the universe threw me a curveball. So I got a DM on Facebook one day from Lisa Grigorge Dempsey. And she is, at that time, she was the executive producer at Extra. And she said, hey, I know this is totally unorthodox, but I was in New York on business because she lived in Los Angeles, and I saw you doing one of your Jen at Work segments that I had, like a little franchise in New York where I would do people's jobs for a day. And she said, and you just flew off the screen to me. what's your contract like? Would you ever be willing to explore entertainment? And I was like, oh my God, extra. Like I grew up watching this show. I was completely floored. So I said, yeah, absolutely. Whatever you want. Like whatever you want. At that time though, I was in a relationship. I was in a committed relationship with somebody. And we did this, it was a FaceTime interview with the other executive producers. They loved me. Lisa loved me. And said, I know this is like not the norm, but would you be willing to move out to LA? She said, you are the first person I have ever hired completely cold, having not met you. I did a little audition, a little, man on the street, I guess, demo for them and sent it in and they loved it and they hired me on the spot and I turned them down.
What?
I turned them down
what?
because I know.
No.
Oh, Stephanie, I did it for love. The things we do for love, right? So, which, then we broke up and I'm like, what the hell? Just, come on, like, give me another chance. So literally, maybe about a year later, I was approaching the end of my contract at Fox 5. And I said to my agent, would Lisa ever, where are they as a show? I knew they were about to hire like a new host, right? They were about to hire Billy Bush and switch distributors. They were going to go on to Fox as a distributor as opposed to NBC. So I said, would they have room for me, essentially? And he said, let me check. And so he said, yeah, actually, they're looking for a correspondent, and Lisa wants to have a conversation. And we did, and she hired me, and I said, I'm yours. And, yep. And I will tell you, this was an excruciating decision to have to make. Even though it was syndication and a different ball game and everything that I had worked for and dreamed of, maybe not entertainment, but syndication and being on a national platform, this was like little girl Ohio's dreams coming true, right? I was still scared to death of the move and what it would mean for all the friendships, the good friendships that I had made at that point. I lived in New York for 5 years. It's if you've ever spent any time in New York, you know that city captures your heart. It really does. I still have a very special place in my heart for New York. I feel like I was completely embraced there from day one. I found my tribe from day one. They're just my people. Even though I grew up in Ohio, I just feel like I had like a kindred thing going on with New York. So, yeah, made the decision to leave. And I remember the first couple of nights that I was in LA, I cried myself to sleep every night because it was so quiet. Because that like frenetic energy of the city, I had just gotten so used to that. And then falling asleep to silence, I was like, oh my God, did I make the right decision? I just kept replaying that over and over in my mind. Did I make the right decision? Am I going to regret this? And I started at Extra, and it was just, and this was 2019, so right before the pandemic. I got a good 6 months in of like a taste of what
True
LA life was like. Yes,
life.
True correspondent life. Working those red carpets, flying all over the place. It was a fabulous life. It really was. It was a lot of hard work. You really have to be totally dedicated to a life like that. And at that point, I was single. I didn't have a care in the world. I had my dog, but that was it. Those were the only attachments that I had. And so I could do it. I was in a position where I could fly at a moment's notice. I could cover any red carpet they asked me to.
And interview Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, that was a
What?
highlight. That was a definite highlight. First of all, she is somebody who I've wanted to meet my entire life. I grew up watching her show. I have such respect for her. And when they said, hey, will you fly out to the Toronto Film Festival and interview Oprah? I was like, yeah, of course. Oh, my God.
You get to interview Oprah.
Yes, I couldn't believe it. And so, yeah, flew out to, at that point, she was promoting a project that she was doing, but it was a documentary that she was putting together that debuted at the Toronto International Film Festival. And I sat down with her. I only had 5 minutes.
Those precious 5.
Oh! And And they give you these agenda questions, right? This is like something that you don't really know about when you get into entertainment. There are agenda questions. And agenda questions are questions that they have you ask as it pertains to anything that might be newsy that's going on. At that point, I think the Queen had just passed. And she did that very famous sit-down interview with Prince Harry and Meghan.
Yes.
And now that the brothers, I think they were just photographed together, before the Queen's funeral, I think it was. And what did I think about that? What did she think about that? Being that you had sat down with Meghan and Harry. And I knew that this was a must-ask question, but I also knew that I was interviewing Oprah. So you have to weigh that, right? Like you have to weigh the cost and the benefit. And at that point, I chose to ask her that question, and that question went viral. It went everywhere. Every outlet picked it up. On one hand, I was happy that I asked it. It didn't really it wasn't necessarily controversial, but it did make big waves. And I think it probably detracted from the project that she was working on, which if I were doing something like that, I wouldn't appreciate it. But I took a risk, and so there it was. I will say the magic of Oprah is that she will remember your name. She'll log it in her head, and she will say your name over and over again in interviews. And it just makes it sound more personal.
Yeah.
Gayle King does the same thing. She will meet you once, and she will remember, and then she'll see you years or months from that point, and she will still say, "Hi, Jen, how are you? Did you have your baby? How's your baby doing?" They're just great about that.
Do you have a favorite entertainment interview that you've done?
Anytime I ever get to interview Jamie Lee Curtis, I love her. She's so real and down to earth. I always love spending time with her. And then I also like Chris Pratt.
Oh.
Chris Pratt is somebody who, he's obviously movie star handsome, but is so down to earth and so wholesome. I always appreciate interviews like that. I've had some doozies.
Yeah, let's talk about the doozies.
I've definitely, I've interviewed people that really think that there doesn't stink. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I never appreciate somebody who I feel like I'm being talked down to.
What does their name rhyme with?
Well, she's actually been, I'll say it, Anne Hathaway. I've
heard that before.
Yeah, only because I know that there have been stories about her, and whether that is their reality, I don't know. I just know that didn't really have a good experience with her. I was interviewing her for a series that she was on, and the language of the promo of the series was this. I think she was doing about the WeWork.
Yes.
The couple who started WeWork, and I said, people have described it as a cult. And this was the language that was written up in the press release. And she said, "What do you mean?" And I was just like, well, you should kind of know what I mean, because these are what your PR people had said.
Right.
This series was all about.
Right.
And so I just feel like I had to kind of explain myself. And she was, if I'm being honest, a bit cold about the whole thing, and a bit withdrawn, kind of acting like she didn't really want to be there. And that's okay. I know that she's probably had a long day of interviews, but I always look at it like this. You're getting paid millions of dollars to do a project. And part of doing that project and making your art is selling that art and promoting it. And yes, interviewing people like myself. It might not be a pleasurable part of what you do, but you have the privilege of a life of wealth and fame. And along with that comes worries that regular people comes a lack of worries that regular people do have, like living paycheck to paycheck. And I think that sometimes mega celebrities like this, they get lost in that life and they lose that perspective. So yeah, I've had some salty interactions like that. And I think that's kind of what makes them salty for me, is just thinking that you're better. You're inherently better than somebody else.
Ugh, I hate that.
Yeah, like the ego of it all.
Yeah. Any funny moments while being at Extra?
Any funny moments?
What was it like working with Billy Bush?
Oh, he's fun. He's fun. He's actually he's very smart. He has a very quick brain. He can think of like shticks and bits that like on the spot that I could never come up with, even if I had all the time in the world, and he does it within like minutes. He's a great, editor-in-chief, I guess you could say. I know he's stepping away from his job there to focus on his podcast, which is where all of this is going. Like, that's where I think, I think television is going to just start transforming into podcasts like this, because it's a more intimate format and you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So that's where he's focusing on. But he was fun to work with. I learned a lot from him as far as being more comfortable in my own skin and trusting my instincts.
How so?
As a journalist. Just feeling comfortable in kind of saying whatever I feel in the moment.
Yeah.
And yes, granted, everything was on tape at Extra, but that was very important for me once I got back into live TV again, is knowing your audience, being able to connect to your audience, and like it's a two-way street when you're doing television. For as much as it is a privilege for people to allow you into their morning routine and into their homes every day, I recognize that. But at the same time, they have to know a little bit about you. And you have to, in order to do morning television well, you have to let them in. So it does take a level of vulnerability.
There's a level of balance there.
Yeah. There is. To not like let it cross into like the TMI territory, even though I do that a lot. Like the audience knows way more about me than I think they probably ever wanted to. But I do believe that.
Let's not talk about the toilet now.
Oh my God. Now honestly, like people that I see in public will be like, hey, hey, no paper, right? No paper? I'm like, oh my God.
Jen does not use toilet paper on the toilet seat, everyone.
I do not. I do not, and I likely never will. And I make no apologies for that. Yeah.
No, everyone knows.
10 toes on that.
Do you get recognized in public a lot?
More so now than I did at Extra.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. I was on, when I was on an Extra, it's like, you do a package here, a package there, an interview, and you're really not on for any longer than, 30 seconds out of a half an hour. This I'm on 3 to 4 to sometimes 5 to 6 hours a day. And I like this format a lot more because it's live. You say what you say. It goes out there in the universe, and that's it. And it's over. Mm-hmm. You're not overthinking anything.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you made that transition from Extra back into local television news. Mm-hmm. What was that decision like for you?
That was also a hard decision because after I had Ethan, my whole world changed, as you know, having a child. You do a complete reprioritization of everything in your life. You are no longer just you. Your schedule is not just your own, and you have like another little person to think about. And so once I had Ethan, no, I couldn't travel at the drop of a hat, and I didn't want to, spend that much time away from him anymore. So it was a really tough decision because keep in mind, this is like a job that I had worked, my whole career for, as a job in syndication.
I always say, can you be great as a mom while also being great as a career woman? And I think the answer is yes, but you do need to get comfortable with changing your priorities, being comfortable with the trade-offs, because that totally changes. Everything changes when you become a parent.
That's right. It does. And to do it well, you do have to have a lot of help. And I am thankful that we did have a nanny for the first 2 years. Now he's in preschool. But that was a tough decision to leave Extra and launch full-time now back into local news. And I didn't really, the only reason I didn't see it as a step down was because I have Ethan now. And it was getting back to doing something that was what I feel is my calling, something that I genuinely love to do, which is news and live news. It's a perfect blend of everything that I like. It's not too heavy on the entertainment. I can still be me while also talking about things that are relevant and timely. So that was kind of while it was a tough decision, it was kind of a no-brainer to make. I did it for the what was best for my family. I tried doing both. I tried doing Extra and Good Day LA for a couple of months. Quickly realized that I couldn't do that. I was burning both ends. I was coming home and not focused on my family and my kid because I was too busy preparing for whatever interview I might have had the next day, and launched full-time into Good Day LA, where I've been for the last 2 years now, and I'm probably the happiest that I've ever been in my career.
I love that. Why?
Work-life balance. It is very important. And the older you get and the longer you're in this business, the more you realize that is critical. And that being personally happy, I think, I'm just speaking for myself, is way more important than being professionally happy.
And the more you realize how much free time you used to have. Like,
I can't even
I think back
about that.
at the time before kids, and I'm just like,
You're like, what
you
the hell
had
did I
no
do with my
idea.
life?
You had no idea how much time you had. Like, you could take a nap in the middle of the day just because you wanted
get
to.
your nails done whenever you want, and you don't have to schedule it for a window between like 3 p.m. and 5 p.m.
Exactly.
on a random Tuesday. Like,
These were done at 2.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
you can do whatever you want. I remember I would go out with my girls almost every single weekend. Is there any, and I think that this is something that people don't talk about. Do you miss the old you in some ways?
I miss sometimes what you could do before you had kids.
The freedom of the old you.
The freedom of the old you.
That's what I miss too.
But I also think I'm a better person now than
Yep.
I was pre-kids.
Yep, me too. I do. I wouldn't trade this life that I have right now, for any previous version of myself.
And I also think in some ways I'm more productive now than I was then.
Yeah.
Because I've had to learn how to prioritize everything.
Yeah.
Like, I better do this now because if I don't,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen.
That's right. It's never going to get done.
Yeah.
Laundry gets done immediately in my house now because I'm like, if I don't do it now, it's just not going to happen. Anything that, right?
Yep.
When do you find alone time? And what do you do with your alone time?
You know, that's interesting. It's hard. Isn't that so hard to find that time?
Yep.
I don't find enough of it.
No.
Really.
If you really think about it, it's like what, an hour a day? Maybe 2 hours a day if you're lucky. Naps are like a complete non-starter anymore.
No.
When I think about like how I used to live, like literally I would come home, I would eat a bowl of cereal, and I would crash out on the couch for like an hour. And now I'm like, ooh. It's just, you feel like you are constantly on this wheel that just like never ends. And by the time you come up for air, you're like, where's the last like 3 weeks been?
Exactly.
Like you really do. You just like keep continually moving forward. And, you know, we met at a Pilates class, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
like squeezing time to focus on yourself, that's like the only time sometimes that I have to like do anything that I want to do is in an excruciating workout class.
I know. It's like, this is my fun.
Right. This is my fun.
Damn it.
Right? Slow hold Legree Pilates, which anybody else would be like, that's murder. That's your fun? Okay, psychopath. Yeah. Like,
How
for
long did
real.
it take you to bounce back after having a child too? Because that year that the baby's born up to a year, that is,
Brutal.
that is excruciating.
Brutal. So Ethan came via crash emergency C-section. And that took a while to recover because, I mean, your whole core is like jello at that point. So physically it took a while to recover. Mentally it took longer, I would say.
I would say so too.
I didn't feel like myself for even a year out. I still didn't feel like 100% back to Jen.
How long between having Ethan and going back to work? did you take?
I had 4 months. I was very lucky there.
Yeah, that's what I had too.
Yeah, and my first day back was the SAG Awards.
Really?
And who was I interviewing? This was so embarrassing. Oh my God. She played Queen Elizabeth. Helen Mirren. So I was interviewing Helen Mirren, and you know how you have that brain fog as a new mom?
Mm-hmm.
I was midway through a question and just stopped. Because I had total brain fog, and I was like, how was I going to finish this question? And what was I even asking her in the first place?
Oh.
It just disappeared. Poof. Helen Mirren disappeared from my brain. And she stood there and she looked at me and she was like, oh, she doesn't know what to say. You know?
Oh.
I'm like, Helen, listen, this is my first day back from maternity leave. I'm in a brain fog. She totally understood. Thank God.
Well, it was better. You just explained it to her versus just being awkward.
Like, is she having a stroke? Like, what's going on? Did somebody unplug her? Like,
can someone turn her
what's
back
the
on?
deal with this lady?
I only have a couple minutes here.
Yeah. She's like, right. I really got to get inside.
That's so funny.
God. Yeah, that was embarrassing. But yeah, it takes a while to feel like you again. And then the rat race begins again with your career. It's like you never left.
Yeah.
Only now you have a whole life to take care of and protect and balance at home. You know, your attention just gets like totally split down a million different directions.
Let's switch gears and talk about your job duties at Fox LA. Talk about your work schedule.
Yeah. So I get up at 3 a.m. and I'm usually out the door by 3:30, at work by 3:45. I read over the rundown. I read over some news articles too. I listen to the daily podcast on the way in. And then I pitch some ideas to the producers. I jump into hair and makeup, and by jumping into hair and makeup, I start to do my own hair and makeup.
Guys, listen to that.
But I'm not
even
there.
in Los Angeles. We might have to do our own hair and makeup.
Yeah, it's a real treat.
Although it looks amazing.
Thank you.
So what do you do for your hair routine?
I do, well, the reason I cut my hair off, because yours looks so good with the bob, literally. But B, I didn't want to mess with it anymore. It literally was taking up all of my time, and my hair was getting burnt
you can
to
say
bits.
it. You can say it.
Yeah, burnt to bits. So it was like snap, crackle, pop with the ends of my hair. So I just cut it off and like decided no muss, no fuss. And yeah, I do hair and makeup for like an hour now, a grand total of an hour. And then I'll go back to my office and read over the rundown of the show. At that point, my show starts at 6 a.m. So I do 6 to 9 live. And then I have a break between 9 and 11 where I like literally look over, the rundown for the next show that I'm going to do, which is a lifestyle, basically a talk show with Araxia Carpathian, Sandra Endo, and sometimes Amanda Salas. So there's like usually 4 of us on set. And that show is called GDLA Plus, and it kind of reads like The View. We talk about anything and everything. It's real loose. Sometimes, a lot of the time, we'll have guests on. And then that show ends at noon. I'm back by 12:30. I see you at Pilates at 1:30. and then I'm usually home by 2:30. And then what? Then I pick Ethan up from preschool at 4:30. So
and then 5 minutes later, it's bedtime.
That literally, yeah.
What time do you go to bed?
I go to bed anywhere between 7:45 and 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So at a reasonable time. But I put Ethan down before I go to bed. And sometimes if Jared, my fiance, is home, then he'll give me a couple melatonin. He's like, good night at 7 o'clock. And I get like an earlier bedtime then, which I'm always thankful for.
Yes. Yeah. When I did morning news, I would go to bed at 8 to get up at 2:30, which, but you need to have a life too.
You do.
You know?
I know. Yeah. So how did you manage that? How did you manage like the nighttime part of it and the social life?
It was hard. And also, I mean, trying to get to bed, like trying to adjust your body to that at the beginning is so difficult.
Brutal. Yeah.
I would just be like laying there,
Yes.
just
You don't sleep.
eyes wide open, like.
I would call my mom like in those days because I'm not kidding. 2 weeks straight where I was not sleeping.
Right.
I couldn't shut it down. My mom was like, you know what? Your body will let you know when it's had enough. And it did. And it finally, like, it's almost like it gave up, you know? It really did. It was like, okay, this is your new schedule. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. At first, my body's like, I'm going to let you go to bed an hour before you have to get up. Have fun with that.
Right. Right. Enjoy that alarm clock.
Yeah.
And then that's something else too, is like you stay up late enough and you have to get up in 5 hours and 4 hours. And so the countdown begins long before the countdown begins in TV. So yeah, that's tough. That going to sleep part, especially in the summertime when it's like 7 o'clock and it's bright daylight and
that
kids are still
is the
playing
worst.
T-ball.
And the blackout shades really don't work so well.
They really don't, because we are not nocturnal creatures. We are not.
Nope.
So you make do.
What do you think makes a great morning anchor?
Transparency, vulnerability, authenticity. That I would say number one is authenticity. You have to be, because the audience is very smart. They are going to see right through you. They will know if you're being a real person or not. And I think it's a huge turnoff when you see somebody on TV who you're like, that's not who you really are. I want to see like the real side of you. That is where I found by far the most success. And somebody who really taught me that, her name was Sukanya Krishnan. She was my co-host in New York. And she was a mom of 2 kids and a wife of a firefighter. Very like, no BS. She found her confidence like a long time ago, because at that point she had been in television for well over 20 years. That's something I would say is very valuable in this business, especially, is finding somebody who's a mentor to you, finding somebody whose qualities that you love, and taking a piece of that person with you in your next job and your next job after that, and just taking pieces of what you appreciate about whoever you might be working with and admire, and taking that with you at your next stop.
That's so smart. How important do you think on-air chemistry is?
God, that's everything. You can't fake the funk. You really can't. And again, people see right through that too. They know if 2 people don't actually get along. You can't force it. It is so important to have somebody who you can play with, who you feel safe with, where you feel like you can say anything and they're not going to there's going to be a parachute. They're not going to let you swing in the breeze and make a fool out of yourself. They've got your back. And you also need somebody who's going to be a real partner to you, where if you're having a bad day or you're having an off day, because let's be honest, we're all human. We can compartmentalize as well as we can, but at the end of the day, we're still people and we have feelings. And if something is happening in our personal life that might trickle onto the set, you've got to know that you have somebody who's sitting next to you who's not going to let you fail, and who will be the one to lift up that energy, and vice versa.
Totally.
When that comes back around.
Also somebody that, if you have somebody that's very sarcastic, but you have the next person next to you that's very literal, and it just it's like oil and water. It just doesn't mix.
It doesn't. There are very few times when that interplay works. Right now, so we're in the process of switching my co-host, since my other one left for another station that I shall not name. But they put in his place somebody who had, Bob DeCastro, who has been on this show in some form for the last 25 years. He has been a staple of Fox LA Morning News. He knows his stuff. He is so prepared. He pitches story ideas. He is a real team player. He will stay if somebody can't stay, like, for example, if they have childcare issues, whatever it might be. He'll be the one to stay late, even though he gets there super early in the morning. He's just a gem of a person, and he's not afraid to make an ass out of himself. It's okay. We're all family here, truly. And I think the audience really appreciates that. Our numbers have been great, very competitive in a very short period of time. And I think that it's because we have that chemistry together.
Yeah.
Even though, I didn't really know much about him before he started. It was just instant. And that is so rare to find in this business.
Yeah. You and the entire, the entire crew, the entire, on-air personalities that are part of your team.
Yeah.
It just blends so well.
Yeah, we really do have a great thing going. A lot of us are moms. So we have those conversations. We have like multiple group, chats that we have, and we go out for dinners and lunches and mimosas and whatever it might be. It's really important. And honestly, I'm very lucky to have that. I know that not everybody gets the chance to have a family, dynamic like that in your workplace. It's almost like, and it's true, like what they say about every job that you genuinely enjoy, like, I get paid to do this. It doesn't feel like work. It truly does not feel like work to me. I'm not sappy like that, but it's true. It doesn't feel like a job. It feels like I go there, and half the time the highlight of my day is when I'm, live on air and cracking jokes and having fun with the audience and bringing them in too.
1,000%. Mm-hmm. So for those that want to follow in your footsteps, that want to get into this business, want to become a morning anchor in Los Angeles or New York City, or even go to Extra, where do you think they should start?
God, it's changed so dramatically since I was in college. I would say, for example, a place like Extra, they use producers a lot on air. So if you don't have that much experience in entertainment, especially, but you have a passion for it, start as a producer. Go in, because you can get hired with not that much experience. You get to draft your own questions, do all the research, and if someone gets sick, or if someone isn't able to make the carpet because of a scheduling issue, whatever it might be, they will put you on the carpet, and you might not be on camera, but they will get your questions, and you will be on national TV. And the more you develop a rapport with the celebrities that come across on the carpet, the more they're going to use you, because you have those relationships and they're going to put your face on TV eventually. That is the quickest pathway, I would say, to get to a place like Extra or Access Hollywood, Entertainment Tonight, whatever it is. I know plenty of people, on-air talent, who started as producers or in the digital space too, because everything is like intertwining, right?
Yeah.
Social media accounts are critically important. So if you can figure out a way to head a team or be a part of a digital team, that is also a pathway to eventually, being on air.
For sure.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen too.
Definitely. I would also say if you're still in college, internships are always very important. Always make sure you show up for the job that you want, dress for the job that you want, act for the job that you want. Walk into a place being willing to do whatever. I will go and get your coffee. What do you need? People appreciate that more than you know. And they will be the ones to make those recommendations to you when you get your first job. I've done that many times. Interns that we used to have, for example, in New York. I've written so many recommendation letters for the interns that I think are super valuable and hardworking. Your reputation precedes you. And never forget that people are always paying attention to how hard you are willing to work in this business.
Amen
Yeah.
to that. Okay, are you ready for the quick fires?
Ooh, yeah, let's do it.
Woohoo. Okay. If I weren't a journalist, I would be...
I would want to be like a what do you call it, like a CSI?
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see you
I
playing
wanna
one
be
on
an
TV too,
investigator.
though.
Yes, that's the dream.
Have you ever acted in anything?
No, I've played myself, but I've never acted.
But you've played yourself in...
on an HBO series.
Oh, which one?
The other two.
Okay, which episode?
It was the first episode of season 2.
So funny. Your coffee order.
Oat milk latte.
Okay.
Hot.
I think you had
Even
that
in the
when
summertime.
I think you had that when we went last time to
I think I did.
Blue Bottle.
Yep.
Your favorite travel destination.
I like Hawaii. But I really want to go to Greece and Italy. I haven't been yet.
Which island in Hawaii?
Maui.
Okay, I'm going to Maui in October for the first time.
Oh my God, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's so peaceful there. Oh my God. And it smells so good everywhere you go.
Something people often get wrong about you.
They think that I'm stuck up or high maintenance without even talking to me. They think that I am like a diva.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Go on.
Not a diva, as you know. I also get like, have you been like a cheerleader or like what? Like, were you in pageants? I'm like, just because I'm on TV doesn't mean I'm like flu. Like, I am the one to rip off my eyelashes as soon as I cross the threshold and put on fat pants. Like, that's what I'm all about. I am not like, I take the makeup off as soon as I walk through the door. Like,
I
truly.
feel like the internet does say that you've done pageants before,
Yeah, they've presumed.
though.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Stupid. Not that pageants are stupid. Pageants aren't stupid. But
Pageants are great.
It's like, yeah,
yes.
exactly. Absolutely.
You do you.
Yes.
The last movie, TV show, or book you watched and loved?
Adolescence. Have you seen Adolescence?
No.
You've got to watch. It's on, I don't know what it's on, but I think it's on HBO Max.
Wait, is this the one with the
Yeah.
children
Yes.
that's really dark?
It's really dark.
Yeah,
It's really dark, but I'm telling you, it's so good. It's going to get nominated for a ton of Emmys, I'm sure.
Yes. My husband's watching it, so I'm catching
yeah.
it.
It's that good. It's so good.
The
that
acting is so good.
Terrific, like top notch. That the guy who plays the father in the series is the co-creator.
Oh.
Yeah, and he wanted basically people to see when a crime's committed, instead of focusing on the victim's family, you focus on the perpetrator's family and the ripple effect that's there. And it's such an important layered, textured series that the UK Parliament passed a regulation saying that this should be in all secondary schools. That every kid should get the opportunity to be able to watch this show in class.
Wow.
Because it's that important. It talks about like social media and toxic masculinity and what that means in today's schools. It's such a great series.
A snapshot of an ordinary everyday moment that gives you true joy.
Oh, when I pick Ethan up from school. Or when I come home, if he's already home, and him just like running into my arms and saying, Mommy's here. Or telling his teachers, look, my mommy's here.
Oh, that's
I'm like,
the
please
best.
never stop. Does Willow call you mommy?
Yes.
I never want him to not say that word.
I know.
Like, when you're 45, please still call me mommy.
Between 0 and 1, I was fine that it was going the pace it was. Now, this age is just perfect to me.
Perfect. It really is. I know they say. Like,
I say the toddler, the terrible twos. No,
no,
I love it.
I think the reason they say terrible twos is because kids can't express themselves yet.
Yeah, they're still regulating their emotions.
That's right.
But they are the best.
Dude, the sweet spot. Ethan is the sweet spot right now. 3.5, where they can start to self-regulate, and when they don't lose their shit at everything. And they can express themselves too, like they know what, like I'm hungry, or like I have to go potty, or whatever it is. When they're out of diapers, truly is the best.
The angels are coming out to sing.
Yeah, for real. Like the sky, the clouds are parting. It's heaven.
Your favorite restaurant?
Oh my God, Postmates. I really don't go out that often. I really don't like go out to a restaurant that often. I really don't. Truly, I don't. I like Mastro's.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
The vibe is good there.
The vibe is good. Don't they have the butter cake there? Is it the butter cake or the olive oil cake?
Olive oil cake, I think.
Is it the olive oil cake? That is the shit.
And the bread. The bread basket.
Yeah.
The carbs.
Give me all the carbs.
The martini.
Yes. I like a good lychee martini.
Ooh, that's good too.
Yep.
If you could switch lives with one person for a day, who would it be?
Blue Ivy.
Really?
Only because
that's a good one.
First of all, she's so young. My God, she's like 13 years old. She has like a huge runway ahead of her. She's Beyonce's daughter, just naturally gifted with all the talent in the world. I don't know how she's able to dance the way she is. I have always wanted to be able to dance, like choreograph dance. I can't move my 2 feet in the same direction at all. Horrible. Like horrible. Like I think there's something dysfunctional in my brain where I can't. I've tried. I can't.
Have you ever played a musical instrument?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's
I played the recorder, hot cross buns. Yes, yeah. Have you?
Yes, I played piano for 11 years, took lessons.
My gosh.
And so it's definitely like, because my husband's the same way. He has a trouble with like the rhythm because, but if you grew up playing a musical instrument, I also danced. Help? Yeah, I danced.
You danced.
I was in dance team and all of that.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah, it's a rhythm thing.
I think it's also like a memorization thing too, like memorizing the steps.
Yeah.
Right? And not counting as you 1, 2, 3, 4,
5, 6, 7, 8.
It's awful.
But yeah, Blue Ivy. I would never want to go back as a teenager though.
No.
See, that's the thing.
But
it's only for a day. It's only for a day.
It's for a day, right? Give me the Cowboy Carter tour, like getting up on stage and being able to move like that. That's the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Not like a school day. Although I'm sure Blue Ivy's school day is very different.
Sure it is.
One thing you're deeply grateful for right now?
My son. I'm so grateful for him. I don't want to remember my life before him. He has just changed me for the better. I'm obsessed. I can't imagine life without him. He's just he has brought out the very best part of who I am.
I bring up another question. You decided to have a child a little bit later in your life. What was that decision like? And did you always want to be a mom?
We keep it real on this podcast, right? It was not a decision. It was not. It happened totally by surprise. I was 7 months into my relationship with Jarrett when it happened. And listen, like I make no secret about this. I had never even held a child before.
I hadn't either.
Yep.
Well, I held my niece 18 years previously.
Yeah. So like basically this was,
yeah.
And I was terrified. I'm like, how am I going to be a good mom when like I feel like sometimes I can barely take care of myself. And how am I going to think outside of myself? Because I was always just used to like thinking about me and my schedule and what was important for me. And do I have it in me? Because I never even really saw myself as a mom. I really never did. I was like, it could happen either way. I'd be good with it. And then it did. And like, I just kind of, I had like this like glowy feeling. I really did. It was like a giddy feeling. Like I'm so excited and I can't wait for this to happen. And, you know, while I didn't know that it would ever happen for me, once it did, there was like some instinct that just kind of kicked in.
It clicked.
It did. And like, I lead with love every single day. And I hope that that's enough. But he has just unlocked a whole side of me that I never even knew was there.
I know. People talk about how difficult it is having kids, but I'm like, how much better it is too.
It is. It's hard. Don't get us wrong. It's hard. It's really hard, especially if you're a full-time working mom. It is really tough. But it is the best thing that I've ever done. If nothing else in my life happens, if I just keep doing this the rest of my life, or if God forbid I go tomorrow, I will have known that I've done enough with him. Like I did the best thing that I could possibly do with my life because he's here in this world.
Last question. If you could go back in time to when you first started your career, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
That's a good question. Relax, calm down. Like literally, stop trying to be somebody who you think other people want you to be. And that it's going to take some time. You're going to have to pay your dues, as they say. I wouldn't listen to myself. I'll just preface it. Like, I wouldn't listen to that advice, you know, growing up. I wouldn't. I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I talk about that too. We say what we would say, but we're go-getters.
That's our that's our parents. Like our parents will give us advice, but you're not going to listen to anybody. You have to figure all those lessons out for yourself. You really do. You have to learn those lessons the hard way. But I would say to just relax and let things happen. Let things happen as they should, because they will. They truly will. And also, like, do not let some schmuck in like Market 20 tell you that you're not meant for this business or that your voice is whatever. Like, you know who you are. Have faith in that and stand true in that.
Don't come after Jen either, because
Yeah.
you will end up on her social media account.
That's right. That's right. You will. Yeah, your big bulbous face will wind up on my page. It's the best series, too, right?
It really is.
Coming after unearthing all the trolls that you see online.
Ah, the pettiness is just
I
chef's
love
kiss.
it. I love it. Actually, like, keep it coming. I love it. I will put you on blast. I love it.
Hey, you know what?
It makes me laugh. Like, it's not offensive. I know these people are just, like, itching for attention.
Most of them don't have profile pictures anyway.
don't.
Let's be honest.
Right. Or they're a picture
Or
of,
it's
like,
their
a
cat.
truck. Or their ram. Yeah, exactly. Or a cat. Whatever it is. Or like a cat smoking a cigarette. Like...
Oh, so good.
You're killing the game. You really are.
Oh, this was so good. Are we going to leave it at that?
Yeah, that's it.
How do people find you if they want to follow you?
Jen Lahmers on Instagram and TikTok.
And there's champagne in these,
Yeah.
by the way. Cheers.
Thanks for having me on.